It didn't start with wine glasses flying. Or someone flipping the table. It started with one word. One foreign word. That didn't need subtitles to slice through the room like a knife. Yara's lips barely moved. But the second it left her mouth, every person at that dinner table froze. And Elizabeth, she went pale, then red, then into a rage that even TLC couldn't fully air, blurring the sound and cutting to commercial like it was Scandal. Containment mode. But trust me, the damage had already detonated. Welcome to TLC Drama Files. I'm Oliva. And if you love watching reality TV personalities unravel under pressure with wine in hand and confessions and quotes, hit subscribe. Comment your hottest take down below. And buckle up because season episode of Day Fiancé Happily Ever After gave us the kind of fire that burns long after the cameras stop rolling. And tonight we are deep inside the chaos you weren't meant to fully see. So, here's what went down. This wasn't a random shouting match. This was weaponized history. Elizabeth and Andre rolled into that post-season dinner, glowing with their usual smug married confidence. But when Yara and Joy walked in, the air pressure changed. You could literally feel it in the cast's body language. Stiff smiles that didn't reach the eyes. Hugs that ended too fast. Empty chairs that suddenly meant everything. TLC had mic'd every inch of that room. They knew something messy was coming, but they didn't know it was going to get international. Yara tried to keep the peace at first. She smiled, sat down, complimented the table, even asked about parenting. But Andre, already snorting arrogance into his cocktail, loud enough for the room, he muttered, "Some people care more about Instagram than marriage." Every syllable aimed directly at her like a missile. With Elizabeth following behind, calm, clipped, calculated. "Priorities matter," she said. "Some of us focus on real family life." Oh, okay. Round 1, then. Now, most of these dinner scenes usually simmer, but fizzle. Not this one. Yara looked right into Elizabeth's eyes and said it flat out. "You're not better than anyone." Elizabeth laughed like she wasn't nervous. "No one said I was better. I just don't make excuses every time my life gets hard." Stop right there. That's when time slowed down. Faces dropped. Wine paused mid-sip. TLC. Camera zoomed in so hard you could count pores. And then Yara fired back, but this time she switched languages. She said something in Russian. Real quiet. Real deadly. Producers blurred it. Audio went fuzzy. But nobody at that table needed a translation. Andre's neck snapped faster than Joy's tolerance. Elizabeth blinked, then full body tilted forward like she was going to launch. "Did you really say that?" Her voice cracked on the last word. In Russia. What Yara said allegedly translates to something like national disgrace, but less poetic and more nuclear, identity based, ugly, and personal. That wasn't shade. That was a cultural slap across the face. Elizabeth's eyes flared so fast the room lit up. Andre shoved his arm out to block her. Joy yelled, "Don't talk to my wife like that." And the room erupted. Voices piled over one another. Like a car crash. The mics picked up. Crying, glass clinking, and someone. Maybe a producer, pleading for calm. But the train had already left the glittery table station. And if you think that was the worst part of the night, oh, you're not ready for what happened next. Because the insult wasn't even the most dangerous thing said at that table. See, there's something about these specific women, Elizabeth and Yara. Their tension wasn't new. This wasn't sudden. This was years of polite jabs, passive clout checks, baby milestones used as weapons, and marriage discussed like a competition. TLC never called it what it was, but we know what we're watching. It's two women who can't stand each other pretending for the camera until the truth slips out in another language. And then it's too honest to take back. In the confessional afterward, Elizabeth shook, literally shaking when she said, "She knows how to press me. She's a manipulator." That word she used. Unforgivable. Meanwhile, Yara was back in her hotel room, still mascara smeared, whispering into her mic. It was disgust, not strategy. She made me feel small. I don't regret saying what I said. I regret it took this long. The tragedy. Nobody won here. It wasn't smart. It wasn't funny. And whatever you think of reality TV drama, this hit deeper. Especially for viewers who've been through real cultural stereotyping. People weren't arguing about who was more dramatic. They were debating if TLC had crossed into unethical territory by airing any of this. Twitter on fire. Reddit translating every frame, tick tock, reenacting the muttered insult with audio edits so fast TLC started banning clips. And even then, the backlash wasn't aimed at Yara. It shifted. Elizabeth had said something back. Something quiet, something that TLC also blurred. And that's where things got muddy because you can't edit around intent. You can't bleep out a vibe. So, what did Elizabeth really say after Yara's insult? And why did both TLC and the cast go radio silent for hours? After this scene aired, TLC called it a cast bonding dinner. But anyone who's watched more than 2 episodes of Day Fiancé knew this wasn't about closure. It was about combustion. You gather couples who low-key hate each other, poke unresolved trauma with a production stick, pour some wine, roll cameras, and wait. And that night, they didn't have to wait long. The setup was innocent enough on the surface. Fancy rooftop. Candlelight vibe. Producers gently nudging topics like, how has your relationship grown? Meanwhile, microphones are practically glued to lace collars and floral lapels. Nothing about this dinner was casual, and every cast member knew. Be entertaining or be edited out. Elizabeth showed up like she had something to prove. Posture perfect. Outfit sharp, smile locked in place like someone already rehearsed in the mirror. Andre was trailing behind in full puffed chest mode. One marriage counselor away from a meltdown, but pretending to be the voice of reason. Meanwhile, Yara walked in with eyes that had already rolled in the Uber. She greeted people, but her hi to Elizabeth sounded like it. Had a middle finger hidden between syllables. Joy caught that tension. Immediately. Did he say anything? No. He sat down and poured tequila. That's where his contribution peaked for most of the meal. Unless you count passive sighing. It started small. A subtle dig from Andre about how some people still act like they're on vacation in real life. No names. Yara looked up, smirked. Said nothing. Elizabeth reached for her wine, then added, a stable home life does wonders. But hey, to each their own. That one landed hard. Then Joy, trying to play Switzerland, chimed in with a fast deflection, asking about kids. Classic move. But Elizabeth wasn't done. She leaned in, faked a laugh, and said, maybe once people stop chasing online fame, they can focus on real parenting. Yara's fork froze midair. Joy nearly choked on his drink and Joy visibly flinched. If you've ever been at a dinner where someone's about to throw a jab but smiles while saying it, you know that chill that runs down your back. That multiplied by. Yara didn't blow up right away. That's what made it worse. She tilted her head, adjusted her hair, smiled so politely it looked like a threat. You love talking about everyone's parenting, huh? But maybe worry about your own husband's temper before judging others. Andre, already fuming from half a sentence ago, snapped. You don't know what you're talking about. Joy tried again to play referee. Let's not do this here. Then Elizabeth dropped the line. I don't pretend to be a victim when I'm the one causing the drama. That sent the table into full freeze. No noise, no clinking glasses. The air just thickened. You could see Yara's shoulder twitch. Warning sign. She didn't reply in English. She leaned in and whispered a Russian slur so sharp even the sound guy reportedly asked, wait, are we allowed to air that? Elizabeth blinked, processed, then turned her whole body toward Yara and said something back, and TLC didn't even try to clean it up. They blurred the audio, faded the subtitles, and then cut away to a shaky wine glass in Elizabeth's hand like it was an art student's final film project called Tension and Regret. Fans online weren't fooled. They went viral breakout level. Detective translators in comment sections. TikTok's dissecting mouth movements, Reddit threads with time codes. The audience knew something explosive went down and that both women said things you can't unsay. It was the kind of insult that doesn't fade when dinner is over. It sticks like a scar. And the producers knew they had struck TV gold. Maybe at someone's real life expense. Meanwhile, behind the scenes chaos. Yara stormed out minutes later. Joy threw his napkin like it was a flag of surrender. Andre kept yelling across the table like that would undo anything. And Elizabeth, she was crying within steps of leaving the set. Furious. Defensive, but also shaken in a way she couldn't hide. In her confessional, she tried to reframe. She goes for the jugular. She knew exactly what that word would do. I've never disrespected her culture ever. Except the internet wasn't siding with her this time because people remembered her past digs about accents, social media obsession, and who deserved to be called real family. The vibe turned fast. Fans weren't arguing about drama anymore. They were dissecting cultural disrespect, immigrant identity, and American superiority complexes. TLC didn't issue a statement. Silence. And somehow both women walked away from that mess, probably thinking they'd won the argument publicly. But privately, the bomb had already exploded. And this time, nobody who sat at that table came out with their image intact. So when the producers announced the reunion taping, only days later, the real question wasn't who would show up. It was who would dare to sit next to whom. Michigan felt unnaturally still. Morning haze. Coffee brewing, low footsteps padding across cold tile. No shouting, no cameras and faces, no drama, just a soft quiet that almost felt fake. But the tension, it was curled up on that dusty beige couch holding a phone like it contained a nuclear code. Jasmine was in the kitchen, hair pulled back, sweatshirt oversized, trying to reclaim something that felt like peace. Gino sat at the dining table pretending to scroll. But when he noticed the red recording light switch on in the corner of the room, he panicked just for a flash and did the exact thing he wasn't supposed to do. Flipped his phone face down. She saw it. Did she confront him? Not instantly. Jasmine clocked it the way only someone who's been betrayed before recognizes the signs. Eyes that blink too long, shoulders too still. What are you looking at? Her voice was even. Suspiciously even. Work stuff, he mumbled. On a Sunday at AM during what was supposed to be their calm no cameras catch-up day, she didn't reply. She just stared. The pause between questions told the story. And then right when Gino tried to change the subject, the producer stepped in. Somewhere off camera, words you're not supposed to hear. Gino, can you just show Jasmine the phone? Clears everything up. His body froze. Which is cruelly ironic because Jasmine was already boiling from the inside out. Not because he might have cheated, but because she knew she was about to be gaslit again. And this time on national television. We stay in her eyes. She closes the distance, extends her hand. Give me the phone. He hesitates, tries to play it cool, then hands it over, but something in the tension of his fingers screamed. Confession. She opens the messages. Her entire face changes. It only took 2 scrolls. Who is this? The name is blurred for us, but Jasmine clearly recognizes the cute nicknames. The emojis at AM. The timestamp that proves it wasn't just work. Her mouth moved, but the words took a second to form, almost like they had to get through a wall in her chest first. You said you missed her voice. You said she made you feel at peace. Gino tried his signature move, chuckle, deflect. It's not what you think. But Jasmine wasn't thinking. She was knowing. And sometimes the silence after betrayal is louder than any fight. She set the coffee mug down with a thud and put the phone on the counter like it was infected. You brought me here, she said. In that way. People talk when they're not sure whether to cry or throw something. You made me leave my country, my job, my family. You told me I was your whole heart. Gino blinked. No answer. You were waiting until I had no escape, right? She whispered. Until I couldn't run home. So now you get to act like I'm crazy while talking to her at AM. Jasmine wasn't breaking down anymore. She was breaking open. Not yelling, not dramatic. Calm devastation. The kind that hits way harder. He moved toward her. Rookie mistake. Don't touch me. And he didn't. Because for the first time, Gino realized this wasn't one of Jasmine's blow-ups that ended with an apology by breakfast. This was something else. Gino tried again. My ex reached out first. Okay. I didn't want to be rude, she laughed. But it was hollow. And just when Jasmine thought betrayal was the worst thing hidden in his phone, what came next sent her entire future in America spiraling, because here's what viewers didn't know at the time. Those messages weren't new. Gino had accidentally mentioned them to a crew member days prior. Off camera, off the record, but still mic'd. And when producers found out, instead of shutting it down, they waited deliberately. They wanted her real-time reaction. That's why the cameras were already rolling at AM on a Sunday. Jasmine wasn't suspicious. She thought they were filming filler shots. But it was a setup, one they knew would explode, and it did. Her breathing turned fast. Shallow. She stepped back into the living room and slid down onto the couch. Like the weight of reality had just crushed all four limbs. Confessional footage that night. She looked wrecked. Red eyes, voice shaking. He doesn't get it. It's not even the messages, it's the disrespect. He made me think I was paranoid. And I was right. She paused. Then added nearly a whisper. I think I made a mistake coming here, querying. Not dramatic. Not for this show. An actual seed of doubt blooming into panic. And that's when she said the words that shook everyone backstage. I don't want to stay here anymore. I want to go home. Jasmine's barely zipped suitcase sat in the hallway like a threat. Not packed out of confidence. Not arranged with purpose, just half full clothes thrown together in a panic. Like her hands couldn't commit to either staying or leaving. The phone messages had already shattered her trust. But it was the letter taped to her fridge that shattered everything else. Days. That was all she had to fix it, flip it, or leave the United States before ICE got involved. No courtroom drama, no judge duty speeches, just a stamped notice tucked into a plain envelope that arrived while she was still drafting angry texts to Gino. Timing almost evil. And this wasn't about visa renewals or tax backlog technicalities. It was about conditions being violated. According to insiders, Jasmine's legal status had quietly been in limbo for months without resolution or even full awareness on her part. But when the tension with Gino exploded on camera, that mess bled into real-world consequences. He didn't say, "I'm sorry." He said, "You brought this on yourself." Right between the ribs. Jasmine stopped speaking to him after that. Not for drama, for survival. Because what he said wasn't defensive. It was final. Cold in a way that wasn't just relationship ending. It was life-altering. Her legal team scrambled. Emails flew. Emergency filings drafted. But court systems don't care how many followers you have. Bureaucracy doesn't have empathy. Timing is everything in immigration court. And Jasmine was already halfway through the countdown by the time she got her second wind. Fans, once obsessed with screenshots of her and Gino's timeline, were now sharing court documents and YouTube clips of her crying in confessionals. Hashtags turned from couple names to headlines like "Jasmine deserves due process." Petition started. Creators posted reaction videos in real time. But sympathy doesn't stop. Paperwork. But with every hour ticking down, the question wasn't just whether Jasmine would stay. It was whether she'd break completely before the court even spoke. Behind cameras, she wasn't sleeping through the night. Pacing at AM, refreshing legal news groups. Refreshing WhatsApp for a reply from a friend back home who could barely keep her updated due to a time difference. The silence from Gino deafening even after producers practically begged him to check on her for scene continuity at least. He didn't respond, no statement. No support. According to sources close to production, Jasmine began filming segments alone, something very rare in this format. They say she requested fewer crew, less noise, and shorter hours. Why? Because she was trying to work with an immigration lawyer through Zoom between scenes while also explaining to TLC what parts of her situation couldn't air for safety reasons. And yet, she still picked up the camera herself one night. Raw footage, no mic pack, no script. She sat near the window holding that plain white envelope like it was her jail sentence. "I'm tired of fighting for something that doesn't even love me back," she whispered into her phone. Not Gino, not America, everything. Later that week, a second letter arrived. This one confirming that if she failed to leave the country voluntarily by the day deadline, forced removal was on the table. That's not metaphor. That's legal procedure. Fans started messaging TLC directly, asking if this storyline was fake. It wasn't. It isn't. It's the moment when televised heartbreak crossed into real-world legal panic. And no one knew how far it would spread because Jasmine wasn't just running out of time in her relationship. She was running out of country to stand in. Darcy sat in front of the mirror, but she wasn't looking at herself. Not really. Her reflection was there. Sure, perfect. Lashes, full lips, skin glossed under soft vanity lights, but her eyes were unfocused, hollow, like she hadn't slept in days. Because she hadn't. What started as another routine shoot turned into a breakdown in slow motion. Darcy Hadn't even planned to talk about kids. Not on camera, not with Georgie. But sometimes when you're tired and disappointed for the 100th time, the words just fall out. Do you still want children? She asked softly, almost to herself. Georgie didn't even look up from his phone. You know how I feel about that. Chilling, flat, and final. Darcy blinked like she'd been physically hit. No shouting, no smashing glass. Her voice didn't even rise. She just whispered, I just needed you to say you care. But he didn't. She stood up, dragging her legs one at a time like they weighed her down. Walked to the bathroom, closed the door gently. The mic remained on. You could hear her muffled sobs. Not reality TV tears, not performative mascara running wails. Legitimate breath-catching sobs that echoed off those tiled walls like grief. I gave everything, she said through tears. I can't give more. And this time, there wasn't a dramatic door slam. Only the empty silence of someone who finally stopped begging to be loved back. Viewers didn't get the showdown. They were waiting for no flaming finale, just emotional static. A woman pacing circles alone, coming to terms with a truth too heavy to scream about. She poured love into a cup that never filled up, and now it was empty. Georgie stayed on the couch, barely moved. The same guy who once swore he'd give her the world couldn't even stand up to meet her heartbreak halfway. Was he done caring or just done pretending? Producers caught his half-hearted confessional. He blamed drama fatigue. Said Darcy was always looking for something wrong. Then he smirked, fidgeted with his hands, avoided the camera lens like it could read minds. But we saw everything. The way he shrugged off questions. The way he said, she wants too much. As if wanting reassurance it was somehow a crime. Back in the bathroom, Darcy wiped her nose on her sleeve and whispered, he doesn't want me. He wants a fantasy. And I'm not that. Raw, simple, gutting. This wasn't about fertility anymore or even marriage. It was about enoughness. About a woman who spent several years and multiple seasons trying to shrink herself or stretch herself into whatever shape her partner could love and losing pieces of herself each time. The strongest moment wasn't her crying. It was the stillness after when she opened the door, walked past Georgie, and never broke her silence. Invisible wall between them. Not unfinished business. Just done. Later, she packed a small bag. Neatly. No drama. She placed her ring in a little velvet box, careful like it was glass. A quiet surrender, then turned to the producers who'd been following her camera arc for years, and said, maybe I am the problem. Maybe people are right. But I just want someone to love me the way I love them. Said with a flat line. Delivery, no bounce, no begging. And that's exactly when it hit most viewers. Darcy wasn't being dramatic. She was standing inside her own permission slip to finally let it go. She drove away. Moments later. No music, no editors. Slow mo overlay, just her headlights fading into dark pavement and Georgie still scrolling his phone under fluorescent kitchen lights. Fans online didn't explode with hot takes. They just got quiet. Because sometimes the loudest heartbreak is when no one argues anymore. And for once, Darcy's story didn't end in a fight. It ended in surrender, which might be the most powerful choice she's ever made. The internet didn't wait for context. It never does. Within minutes of Elizabeth and Yara scene going live, phones lit up around the world like someone had triggered a global reality TV fire alarm. The blurred slur, the pointed stare, the barely whispered Russian. And the moment Elizabeth fired back with something TLC muted just as fast. It wasn't subtle, it was explosive. Reddit lit up like a warboard. TikTok was flooded with lip readers decoding Elizabeth's blurred response frame by frame. Russian speakers translated Yara's phrase in different clip duets. Instagram threw up side-by-sides of their confrontation with captions like privilege meets audacity. Twitter entered full trial mode, defense. Threads, cancellation threads, speculating if TLC itself would address what wasn't shown more than what was. And TLC said nothing. No tweets, no PR statement, no push notifications from their app. It was silence, but the kind that made things worse. When you blur out an insult and mute the reply, people don't forget, they hunt for it. In editing, cutting something out doesn't remove it, it immortalizes it. Comment sections filled with, she really said that on camera, why is TLC still giving them a platform? They bleeped something too real. You know, it's serious. Elizabeth outrended, but so did none team. Yara and Yuck stop the spin. Fan pages that usually debated wedding rings were now arguing over nationalism, accents, and cultural trauma. It stopped being about who was Messier. It became about what it means when someone comments on your background disguised as your lifestyle. And that's what made this dinner different. It didn't feel produced. It felt like raw prejudice. Caught on camera, flinched up by the audience, and then shoved under the carpet by an edit team that blinked too late. While that firestorm raged online, Jasmine was facing an explosion of her own. One without hashtags, one without an undo button. She was pacing her apartment while the rest of the internet was busy choosing sides between Elizabeth and Yara. Her court document sat on the counter beside half-drunk coffee and loose lashes. She hadn't slept in days. No crew tonight, no makeup, no jokes or wigs or dramatics. Just dead air and a countdown clock with no mercy. Days don't feel like a lot until the final 3 show up. Every time her phone buzzed, her heart dropped. Would it be her lawyer or immigration? Would she be told to pack? Or would she be warned a van was coming? She recorded a voice memo for herself. I don't think I can do this, she said, crackling into her mic with a low voice, usually reserved for moments off camera. He broke me this time. A pause. I don't want to fight anymore. I thought I'd come here to build something. Now I feel like I came here to lose everything I had. That audio never aired, but it leaked. And when it did, it went viral. For a different reason. Not drama, not cheating, but for something much rarer. In reality TV. Stillness, a total emotional surrender that didn't ask for attention. People in the comments weren't arguing. They were heartbroken. She sounds done. You can feel the fear in her voice. She gave up her home for this. For him. Gino issued a short message via Instagram later that day. It said, "Please respect our privacy." 4 words. No name, no accountability. Nothing about what had happened or what Jasmine was facing next. Back in Michigan, Jasmine waited. She had submitted emergency documents. Her legal team drafted 3 versions of possible outcomes. Behind the scenes, there were reports TLC was helping her, but only to a point. Producers couldn't interfere with immigration, but they reportedly tried to film one last confessional in case things went bad. Jasmine didn't show up for that shoot, not because she was being difficult. She was in her apartment holding the court envelope. A judge had reviewed her case. There was a result. Her phone rang. She didn't answer it immediately. She stared at the screen and watched it light up again, with the same unfamiliar number that had been calling for hours. No music in the background, no cut scenes, just her hand trembling. Every second that passed, calculating what life looks like after days. If you lose, we don't know what was said. The recording cut off, and TLC didn't include the verdict in the episode. The episode ended there on purpose. Producers cut to black before the call finished. No update, no final line, no closure script. They pulled a move that's rarely used in reality TV. Ending not just on suspense, but silence. Because the stakes were no longer emotional. They were legal, global, permanent. Darcy, Elizabeth, Yara. They walked away bruised, embarrassed, cancelled, or celebrated depending on who you ask. But Jasmine, she might have to walk away for good. And as the episode closed, all we got was a final recap. Shot of Jasmine sitting at her kitchen counter, eyes red, bags packed beside her, one hand over her chest, muttering something we couldn't hear clearly. But it looked like please. Then fade, no music, no next time on, just that suffocating quiet. And the worst part, nobody walked away clean. Not Yara, not Jasmine, not TLC. Because sometimes the